Hi, I'm indie fantasy author Melinda Kucsera, and in this episode of Fantasy Lore and More, we have Ligia de Wit, and she's here to talk about her book, Touch of Faete, and she's also brought Tracy Leonard. Wait, I can't read all of your last name.
Nakatani.
Okay, thank you. As I'm like trying to expand the thing because I have my notes next to the StreamYard where all our heads are, and it just has ... at the end of your name. I'm like, I forgot to ask you before we started what your name is. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So welcome to the fantasy podcast. It's a bit mad. Yeah. So I guess yeah, welcome, and why don't you tell us about about your why you're both here, and then we'll talk about Touch of Faete.
But first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very, very excited to be here. Very excited to talk about my book. Uh, writers can have sometimes hard time to come from. We just rather be writing, but it's very, very exciting to be here. So my name is Ligia de Wit. I am a fantasy romance writer. I actually am bilingual because I am from Mexico City, but I've been writing in English for years. And actually, I met Tracy Leonard Nakatani, and that's why she's here, because she's an amazing writer and a most amazing friend. And she along some other writer that she's not here right now, but they have been I'm gonna sound very corny, but my wind between beneath my wings. Sorry. So they're being very, very supportive. They know the story so much. So that's why I want her here with me, to cheer me up a little bit. So I've been writing for several years, and I finally got the nerve, and thanks to this lady and another one again, I decided to put myself out there, and my book published last year. I'm with this amazing publisher, small publisher called Curse Dragonship Publishing. They are being so supportive, and I'm so happy to be with them. And well, that's basically me in a nutshell.
Do you
So
want to add anything, Tracy?
And echoing what Ligia says, we met years ago. Gosh, was it maybe like 2016? I think
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I jumped in on her story when she was sharing it, and right away in chapter one, I knew like, gosh, this is something special, and like it just really drew me in, and I didn't even realize that she was writing in a second language. And then when I learned that, I'm like, gosh, this woman is so talented and her characters are so fun and vibrant. I was just sucked into the world. So yeah, like everything Lee has, I just echo everything. She's amazing.
Thank you. You
That's
see,
awesome. So let's talk about Touch of Faete then, since you've just been hyping it up. Like, what's it about?
so this is a clean fantasy romance. It's mostly about adventures, and it's about a mix of different type of creatures. We have fae, but it's not your usual fae love interest. I'm actually going away from that. It's about immortal pirates, about blood war between two factions, and a small puny human who has no idea why she's there, stuck in the middle. And she has a touch of fae, and that's why the title of the book. She has a touch of fae, and she loves her fae mentors. She lives in the normal human world, and she has this pixie guardian who comes with her, and nobody sees this pixie guardian but her. So she has to adapt to be odd, to be different from them, and having one foot in one place and one foot in the other. But then she, of course, meets the fae's worst enemy, which is an immortal pirate whose aim is to destroy. He and his kin are meant to destroy the fae, and the fae are not able to fight back in the same way that them, because they are created with dark energy, with evil energy, and their only purpose is to destroy the fae and recover that land that an evil god wants them for them. So Ryanne, who's the main character, she's stuck in the middle. She has no powers except her only power is to see in a date who's gonna end with which. So she touches the hand of someone and it activates her seer powers, and she only sees the guy that she's dating with another woman. So that's very frustrating for her. But she has to learn that this why she has this power, because it has a reason. There's a reason why she sees that and how it evolves, how she grows. So it's a bit of it, even though she's 22, it's a bit of a coming of Fae age, because she has a little bit of Fae power in her, and she acts a little bit like a Fae child sometimes, and it's all explained, and it's all there's all a reason why this is happening.
Oh wow. So I guess she's descended from the Fae if
No,
she's got a
no,
touch
no,
of the Fae.
no. She's human, completely human. But
How do
they
you
found
have a
her when
touch
she
of
was,
Fae if you're human though?
yeah. Well, there's a reason why.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got to
yeah.
read the book for that. Okay. Okay.
Everything has a reason. Everything I didn't. Yeah, everything has a reason. So she said she was found at 8 years by the pixie, and she was given a little bit of their power. And right now, when the story starts, she's like in a comfortable position. She's a nurse. She loves her job. She has her family. She only wants for a second date because she can't have a second date when she knows when the guy she's dating it's going to end with. So that's very frustrating for her. But when she meets this guy who doesn't activate her seer powers, there's nothing in him, and he tries to kidnap her,
Oh
then she
no.
realized, yeah, she's in it for something bigger. And then this is she starts to understand why the fate chose her, because she's like in oblivion, she's enjoying her life, she's partying, she's like, like any 22-year-old. That doesn't have like a tragic backstory. She's a normal human, except for Touch of Fae and Pixie. And then when this happens, she starts to understand why she was left in ignorance, because she was left in ignorance because of a reason. And she and her powers, why she's seeing that is also a reason. And she has to understand, accept what she has inside, and it starts to grow because she has to deal by her own decision. She goes into a quest to try to understand the foe and try to see the way to thwart their evil intentions. So it's an enemies to
Wow.
lovers, forced proximity, one bed, grumpy sunshine kind of a story.
Oh wow. All right. Do you have anything do you want to add, Tracy, or should we go to the excerpt?
Yes, actually. So what I also want to add to about this story, I think what also really drew me in was the fact that this main character, Ryanne, she's not the typical powerful kung fu fighter. Like, she's not, her strength doesn't come from her physical strength at all, which I find really refreshing. Like, she's strong internally, and it's her compassion and her kindness that is her true strength. And it like changes the world around her. And I just find that so powerful, because so many stories I feel like they're fun and I'm following, these women who can fight and, do karate and beat up people. And that's not her power. Like, her power is truly like her compassionate nature, her kindness, and it's her strength. It's so amazing.
And actually, now that you mentioned that, and thank you, Tracy, for reminding me, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that strength comes in different flavors, in different sizes. It doesn't have to be just one. And again, those are wonderful. That's perfect. But there's also other type of strengths. So that's one of the things that my character plays with. Her strength has to come from a different source. She has to find how to fight a foe without having physical power.
That's really neat. Okay, now we got to go to the excerpt.
I'm holding the book here. Oh my God! I think here it is. I blurred it, and I think that was my mistake. Okay,
Oh yeah,
there
if
it
you put
is.
it over
Yeah,
your face, yeah, there you go.
yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the book. This is the book number one in a trilogy. We'll talk about
Just
what's
describe
coming next.
it for the listeners because they couldn't see they couldn't
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
They
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
see you moving the book around to get away from the blur.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is book one. This right now it has a touch of fate, and it's lovely. The cover has actually it has a crown, a crown bathed in blue light and blue power. Oh, here it is, and blue power. And one of the things that I love about this cover, it's part of shows it's actually this fate power that she's coming into terms. So it's a little bit and it has like wings and well, it has like a lot of symbols, and that's one of the things that I love about this cover.
It's very pretty. It's a very pretty cover.
Yeah, it's I love it.
There's links below, so if you want to go and click on the link to go and see the cover on Amazon, feel free. It's really pretty. Okay,
It's
go on. Sorry.
no, that's perfectly fine. Thank you, appreciate that. All right, so you want me to read
Yes,
the
please.
first chapter, right? All right, so this is the story is actually dual POV. So we have the antagonist and we have our heroine. So we have the two point of views, and so you get to understand both of them. And this is from our heroine. This is from Ryanne. First dates were my specialty. To be more precise, ending first dates was my specialty. But this one couldn't have been better. Lampuga Bistro had a cozy feeling with its rustic stone walls, floor to ceiling wine racks, and candles on the tables. Soft laughter, silverware clinking, and animated conversations here and there kept a grin on my face. I leaned back on the chair, flicked my long chestnut hair over my shoulder, and gave Kurt a sexy smile. God, I hope it was. Dating rule number one: never date a coworker or boss. Kurt wasn't technically one. He was a visiting physical therapist for a nursing home, so all was good. Giddy, I sipped the red Zinfandel, enjoying its fruity spice taste. This was going to be a good date. So far, the conversation had run smoothly with Kurt taking over the mic. Ask a guy about his work, and he'd chat nonstop. Never failed. Jesus, Ryanne, he said, pushing his round rimmed glasses up his nose. Kind, attentive, Jimmy looking with his sleek hair and jeans, Kurt was perfect. I can't believe I talked this much. Your turn. What kind of books do you like? Oh, I love dragons. Give me some cool ones and swords and. He put on a neutral expression, the one he used when talking to the patient's relatives. Dang, almost perfect. You're not into fantasy, are you? I asked. Come on, who didn't like dragons? I was thinking more like Dare to Lead. I could get lost in it for hours. Yes, the last thing I wanted to read was a serious book. Thanks, but no thanks. Our waitress leaned over and set the tapas on the table: goat cheese, spaghetti squash jam, and seared prawns. This looks so good, I said as I dipped into the goat cheese with a warm piece of bread. So creamy. I knew you loved this. Samantha told me you liked to experiment. Samantha, hmm? How cute. He asked my friend about me. So what if he didn't like dragons? She wanted me to take you to the laser thing in that place, Laserdome. I've been dying to go to the Pacific Science Center. Now that's the place I could get lost in for hours. That or kayaking. He tilted his head and smiled, the way he did when talking to the patients. More than one of the girls in the nursing home had a crush on him. Kayaking sounds great. For a second date, I was about to add, but I kept my mouth shut to avoid jinxing this one and plunged my fork into a prawn. Something soon nearby. Someone who was going pretty fast, and definitely that little someone wasn't human. I refrained from a groan. How had Bricious been able to find me so quickly? Damn it. Wasn't a girl allowed a couple of hours without her pixie guardian? Precious. Black tux and shiny shoes matching my little black dress hovered between me and Kurt, translucent wings flapping. Yuck! That smells awful. Yes, he said in his high, squeaky voice. Dating rule number two: pretend the 7-inch pixie was as invisible and inaudible to you as he was to others. Precious landed beside my plate, sniffing at the jam while narrowing his big orange eyes that matched his tousled hair. He dipped his hand into the goat cheese. I swiftly stuck my fork next to the mark he left, then flicked my hand to shoo him. Is there a problem? Kurt leaned forward, frowning. A fly. I blinked innocently, but it's gone. Fly. Kurt placed both hands on the table, looking for the non existent insect, then gave me a charming smile. When I made this reservation, they asked about dietary requirements, and I did specify no bugs. My laugh came a little bit forced, and I promptly shut my mouth. Kern is all right. I could live with Kearney and guys who believe dragons didn't exist. The only bug in the place grabbed his own throat with both hands, making noises of disgust as he staggered across the table, then fell with open arms next to my wine. To prevent spilling, I grasped the glass with a swift practiced motion. Precious threw toward Kurt and jabbed a finger right below my date's short sideboard. At least he didn't use his little sword. Kurt swatted at his cheek. The fly's back! Oh, yeah, a very big, damn annoying fly. I hid behind the glass so he wouldn't notice my struggles to refrain from yelling at the bug. I begged him not to bother Kurt before the date. But apparently that was hard to understand for his little pixie brain. I do not like this man, Precious said, jabbing poor Kurt's cheek again. He looks like a kidnapper. I do not trust him. No, no, no. Yeah, that's new. Kurt, I cooed, twirling a lock of hair on my finger to get his attention. Hold on, just a sec. Kurt kept trying to shoot the impossible to catch pixie. I hate flies. This could go on forever. When Precious trusted someone, nothing deterred him and disaster awaited. He constantly worried about my safety while in the human realm. I lurched across the table to drive Precious away, but instead, I brushed Kurt's hand. Kurt seized my hand and squeezed. Oh shit. My smile froze, trying not to reflect the horror of the imminent consequence. Dating rule number 3: avoid hand contact at all costs. And no squeezing, banned. Well, damn, too late. The usual cold feeling swirled inside my chest, and I stifled a groan. Couldn't Bridges have waited until I had a last kiss, Kurt? Oh dear Cootie, just one kiss. Was that much to ask? Kurt moved his lips, but his words vanished along with all sounds, except for a small buzzing in my ears as if I was switching channels in an ancient, malfunctioning TV. Sepia tones splashing my visions like an old movie. Featured Kurt walking Puget Park with Samantha, my best friend. They laughed and glanced at each other like a couple in love, a normal couple. Like an out of body experience, I watched the vision from afar, helplessly, a knot forming in my throat. Sounds and colors returned with a mild pop, and so did present day Kurt, who kept talking as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. My expression was the one I practiced lots of time with Precious, a smile replacing the empty gaze for the exact 3 seconds the vision took. Precious alighted on my shoulder and rested his hand on my cheek. You had a vision. We need to review it. Yes, yes, yes. Is everything all right? Kurt looked confused, surely by my lack of response. With a sweet smile so warm that if it were jeans, it would have holes the size of pixies, I reclaimed my hand and rose to my feet. I need a moment, to powder my nose. I hurried among the tables, jaw clenched, while the cold quivered happily if satisfied after a job well done. Snipped conversations that didn't include sightings of fake creatures reached my ears. A tall, dark-haired man bumped into me. He was freakishly tall, more than 6'2" for sure. Watch where you're going, he threatened in a husky tone, sparkling blue eyes hardening. A black leather jacket fit his well-defined physique, and a scrubby bear hugged a firm jaw. Cold flickered in my chest like an ice cube against my skin, an undesirable effect of the face gift, appearing wherever it felt like it. I'm sorry, I talked a long strand of hair behind my ear. You should be, he said in a sharp tone, then pushed past me with a most arrogant attitude. Jerk, I mumbled loud enough for him to hear. The ladies' room was thankfully empty. Precious hovered above a ceramic vase sitting on the sink, fist clenched. What's the matter, Buck? I asked. The man outside. I do not like him. No, no, no. He buzzed around to prove he was quite upset. Gee, we're agreeing. That's the first. I opened one stall and hid inside, followed by the bug, then let out a deep breath. What did you see? Precious asked, hovering a few inches from my face. Kurt with someone. A hint of bitterness laced my usually cheerful tone. That didn't make sense. Sam couldn't care less about Kurt, and he barely talked to her. What else did you see? Precious insisted. Nothing, I snapped. What was there to see? I glared at the toilet, the fate of my date. This sucks, Buck. When will I stop having visions? He gasped, wings rigid. You want to forget about us? No, I will never want to forget about you guys. Visiting Queenie and the gang is the highlight of every year. You know that. I miss you, Vicious, too much. I reach out to him, a hit descended onto my palm, grinning from pointy ear to pointy ear. Let's return to the table, I said, and step outside the stall. No, no, no! That creature could be around. Wait! Vicious, the tapas will grow cold, and so will my date if I didn't fix this soon. But the little pixie was already peeking outside. His palm to me, he signaled to wait. I sighed and washed my hands in the meantime. Perhaps Sam and Kurt wouldn't notice each other for a few months. I could work this out. I couldn't step aside for another woman to take over, even if that woman was my best friend. No touching hands with someone I like anymore, though. Dating someone who could accept my double life was out of the question. So settling for a second date was my next goal. Like one of the gnomes at the time would say, let's take this one mushroom at a time. Bridges pumped a fist that all was clear. But we should be careful. Yes, yes, yes. If I tell you, you run. Of course not. Crazy paranoid bug. Running away in 5-inch heels from a four-star restaurant because he thought he saw a troll or an ogre in disguise wasn't the perfect closure to this evening. Then again, having a vision wasn't either. And yet, that was my life. One took opportunities whenever one could. That's the end of chapter 1.
Oh wow. I love it's funny that in the middle of your reading it there was that loud bang. It was like just perfect with like what was going on. I was like, did she orchestrate that?
Perfect.
That's some character
Yes,
magic
yes.
behind the scenes.
Exactly. That was actually one of the pixies. They were listening and say, perfect timing, let's do this.
Because that was so perfect. I love when happy coincidences like that happened.
It's not coincidence. It's really a pixie. I mean, I would love to.
I love that. This was such a fun excerpt. Thank you for reading it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. I love that.
Yeah, no, I love listening to audiobooks. I could listen for hours. And you have a great voice for narrating. So
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I try to do my best. And I actually love to do, to mock the voices of the other characters. Of course, not like a professional audiobook. But yeah, I enjoy it.
no, it was really good. Like it was, yeah. No, I very much enjoyed that. Thank you. That was such a treat. And now I have to get my notes back because I clicked off them when the loud sound happened. I was like,
Another pixie. Oh, maybe there was a gnome.
I'm glad it was a pixie for a second there. I was like, did I not mute myself? The dishes you can't see behind the virtual background that are stacked up from yesterday's cooking to prepare for the snowpocalypse like tip over and I didn't notice. I was like, wanted to check behind you and make sure there's no broken glass. I'm very glad it was the pixies. Because for a minute there, it was like real fear. I was like,
I mean, you could also have brownies. I mean, brownies, they are small little creatures, that they love like
yeah.
discarded pitchy, and they love to clean. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I can send you a couple of brownies so they can
That'd be
clean up all the
fabulous.
dirty dishes. They love that.
Well, all right. Since you started talking about fey creatures, what other fey creatures are we going to see in Touch of Fate?
One of
So
the
we've got
things
the
that I like,
pixies, brownies. Go on.
yeah, I have pixies, I have brownies, I have gnomes, I have ogres and trolls. I also have a puka. I don't know if you're familiar with the pukas.
No, what is a puka?
Puka is part of the Celtic mythology. It's a shapeshifter, and they are tricky. They love to trick humans. So they usually look like a rabbit or a jet a stallion, black stallion. So they're actually gifted prophecies. Unlike Ryanne's, they usually they're good prophecies. They're good prophecies. So I have one in book 1. It's very he appears very quickly, but he appears again in book 2, and then maybe I don't know, in book 3 might. I also have a couple of them that are made up, so they are not like your normal ones. One is called an andub, and they're actually, one of them is the first mate of my pirate, of an immortal pirate. Yes, so he's a loyal person because my pirate is called Titus Doyle. So against his nature, he saw this creature in the kingdom is called Tirdosh. So that's actually an old land. And Tirdosh, he went there to get his. He has to go to the Dragon's Valley, where he has to find the wood that is going to use for his ship, because it's not just a normal wood, so it has to be dragon wood. So he finds this guy. He's called Homkar, and he's a huge guy, but he's trapped by goblins. So yeah, so he saved him. Titus saves him against his nature, because his nature tells him not to do it. He's actually evil, kind of evil. Well, not evil. He has dark magic inside him, telling him what to do. So he's trying to be his own man, and he can't. He's trapped into this curse, because that's what he was meant to do. So it's very hard for him to step away from what he was meant to do. So
Oh,
yeah.
how did he get cursed? And do we see him in Touch of Fate?
No, I actually, if you sign to my newsletter, I have a couple of news stories, and one of them is how he wakes up after being created. And it's talked about mostly in book 2, but the thing is, he's not really cursed. He was created with black magic. There's this god called
Oh.
Anord. He's like, not Sauron, but you get the idea. He's like an evil god. He's from another dimension, an dimension called Tirna Brausta, which is the land of the darkness, and he wants the Fey land for him. So but the Fey notice his evil intents, and they were able to push him away. So now in Reptilians, he created these evil creatures with dark magic, and their sole purpose is to kill the Fae. And unfortunately, the Fae, while they're not immortal, they're very, very hard to kill, very hard. They don't die easy. But but the bradaís, that's the name of of his king. The bradaís are, with this dark magic, they found a way to snuff their immortality. So the Fae are very worried, and that's where my MC it comes from, and I can't tell anything more because that's in the book.
Oh,
But
okay.
yes,
No,
yeah.
that's okay.
But you will see his struggle in this book. You see his struggle. You don't see that much of him in the first book. I mean, you
Okay.
only see his frustration, his evilness taking over, and then trying to fight it. But he's like a villain turned reluctant anti-hero for the series. In book 2, you will see more of him and why he's like that. You see more. It's like he's like Shrek. I had to peel him like an onion.
Oh, okay. No, the
Not like
best
Shrek.
character.
Yeah.
No, like the best characters are like that you have to peel back all the layers. And more layers means more books, and we like that, we readers. At least I do. So you talked about the Fae as if they were like a cohesive unit. Is like when you say the Fae, what do you specifically mean? Is there like a specific court, or there like a fake?
I didn't use curds in my book.
Yeah.
They're just like well, there are 3 different sections, but they are not really sections. They're okay. That's more in book 2, so I can explain a lot of that, because my character only see once of them, but they're pretty much very similar. There are 2 levels with them. Ones are the guardians of the hawthorn. So there's a sacred tree. It's actually one of the things that I love. So I did some research about some mythology, Irish mythology, and I found some of it's actually Irish and a little bit Scot, because sometimes it kind of mixes both. And there's the hawthorn is called a fairy tree. So if you chop down a fairy tree, a hawthorn, the fairies will get mad and get revenge. So the hawthorn is like the center of the power of the land, and it's a sacred tree for the Fae. And so it's kind of related to the Fae. And there's no court. I'm a little bit more they're not the love interests. They're more like the mentors. So there are these beings that are so beautiful but so cold and so distant, and yet Ryanne is happy with them. Is happy when they go with them. They have she has these this fey guardian that she mistakes by Peter Pan when she's little, because he looks like Peter like a grown up Peter Pan, and she gets angry. Say, "Hey, you grown up," and she always calls him Peter. And I think Tracy can tell you a little bit about Peter, because one of the things that it was very fun to see when I was sharing this story in between writers is that Tracy actually had a crush on Peter, right, Tracy?
I still have a crush on Peter. Come on.
Dish, come on, tell us about this.
Oh, well, Peter's just like, classic handsome fae. Like, how can you not fall in love with him? And he's Ryanne's mentor and guardian, and he's just so kind and patient with her. But he's also very strong and skilled, and so it's just really hard to not fall head over heels for him. So I have a thing for secondary characters, so
So like before we get back to story, this is really, so while you were writing it, you were sending it back and forth with Tracy, so you guys were sort of so I guess Tracy, you were like the beta reader. This is kind of neat. We've not had like a reader on here who's also an author, so we can this is interesting dynamic that I just want to spend a few minutes on if we could.
Sure.
I think it's sort of interesting for readers to hear how a book comes about, and that we don't just lock ourselves in a room and and then hit a button and it goes out to you.
No,
it's a little bit more involved in the idea to the getting out to you.
One of the things that I loved is that writing might look like a solitary endeavor, but it doesn't have to be. You can count with a lot of wonderful people, in my case, like Tracy, during your life as a writer. And in this case, when I started writing, I found this site with this website called Critic Circle, where you share your stories with other writers from all around the world. It's basically US and Canada, but I found people from New Zealand, from Eastern Europe, from the UK. So it was very, very interesting. And so you share those stories because you want to grow as a writer. It's not like you just write it and then you send it to the world. No, because you have to let it simmer. You have to work in your story. And especially when you start writing, there's a lot of things you need to learn, like structure. And I'm going to actually give Tracy the microphone right now, because I know she knows a lot of this, a lot.
Well, I mean, there were so many layers to this story. Like, Ligia pretty much had a lot of the world created when she started sharing it, and she pretty much knew where it was going to go and had a lot of stuff written. And she shared a few different versions, and we would, go over it. But what I loved about the experience, and why I feel so close to this is, this was all happening back in like 2015. And I feel like part of me has grown up with these characters before they were even published. Like, we would interview each other's characters and we would go back and forth, and I would tell her, okay, I want to talk to Peter. Let's interview Peter, of course. And then we'd interview Ryanne, trying to get to their goals and their deepest, darkest fears, like just pulling them out of the story to talk to these characters. Like, what is going on in your life? Why are you like this? What drives you? And we learned so much about her characters through that process. And, she would share it. We'd give feedback, and then of course sometimes we'd get feedback and we'd kind of cry a little bit about it as writers.
Oh, no.
But as one does, but it makes you stronger, and you really learn. You have to follow your story instinct, and I feel like every writer everyone has the story instinct inside of them. And, I always try to say too, like, the first draft is kind of your true draft, and you don't want to deviate too far from that first draft, even though you may be getting lots of feedback that pulls you in lots of direction, because your heart is what writes that first draft. And that's where, like, that's where the heart of the story is. So if you go too far, you'll fall away from the story eventually. But so that was kind of a neat process, and we both went through it. We would share a story and then go back and try and drastically change it, and we'd have to slap one another and be like, no, you change too much, you have to go back to what you wrote originally, and let's start from there. But it's such a neat process to have writer friends that you can trust and be your biggest fans and cheer you on. And I'm in love with her world. Like, I tell everyone about it. Like, you have to read this book. These characters are amazing.
And Tracy's volunteered to come back and talk about, so we can talk about her book in a future episode. So.
Her writing is amazing. I always say that she was the queen of details. I mean, I can't tell you how much I enjoy her books and her
Well,
story.
we're gonna get her back. Tracy's
Yes.
gonna
And I will be the
come on.
cheerleader.
Yeah, and we'll do this again. So look for that future episode. I just wanted to point that out since we talked about that before the podcast.
Yes,
I always like a good point to slip it in.
I always joke that Ligia and we have one other. She couldn't make it this time, but we're a package deal. So you'll get me back, and I'll be dragging Ligia on here too.
Yeah, and you said there's a third member of your crew. We can do one.
Yes.
Get her to sign up too.
She has a lot of books published already, so she's like our idol. She's the one that we look up to, because she's also an amazing writer. I'm lifting my book right now, the Touch of Faete book. Oops, okay, here it is. I'm lifting just the book because when I had the author copies, you know whom I had on my side? I have Tracy and I have Jessie. They both were sitting next to me, and they opened I opened the box with the author copies. And I think they're going to do the same thing for the second book, because the second book is coming out on March. It's called Burden of Fate, and they must be by my side when I picked my second book in my hands.
Okay, since you brought it up, so March 2024. We're recording this today. It is January 6th, 2024. So March is when the second book is coming out. When is the third book coming out?
In early 2025. So
okay.
Actually, the third book is already written, and Tracy is actually my alpha reader. So she's the only one who's read this book at this point, and she gave me so much good pointers, and it's already written. So I'm not going to let anyone down that I'm not finishing the series. It is finished.
And I can vouch that it's great too.
So if you want spoilers, you need to hunt Tracy down.
My lips are sealed.
It's a lot of spoilers in book 3. And yes, I already have deadlines from my publisher for the book 3, but yes, it's going to be early 2025 for book 3.
And you said that there's some side stories that you've written that are available through your newsletter. Like, how many, and what are they about?
I have 2. Well, actually, I had 3 short stories that I wrote. The first one, as I say, it's about Titus when he wakes up. The first time he's very disoriented, so it's his origin story and how he ends up dealing with his black magic inside him, the black energy inside him, dark energy. And the second one is Ryanne 1 year before the book starts, and she's trying to do with the first time that she goes into a hospital in a nursing home, and trying to work with a pixie that's pretty paranoid, as you read in the excerpt, and believes that everyone it's a danger, and he's like telling, and nobody can see it. So she's trying to deal with going into a nursery and with the little pixie. So that's the 2 short stories. And actually have a third one where with Titus, the antagonist, he finds 2 of his kin for the first time, and they're his friends. By the time you read book 1, you'll see he's estranged from his friends, and he's like he can't trust anyone. He doesn't. That's why it's very hard for him to open up. And you just see that in book 2, because that's when he starts to loosen up a little bit. So so when you sign up to my newsletter, which is in ligiadewit.com, you get those first 2 short stories immediately.
And we'll have the links down there, so you don't have to try and spell it. If you're listening to YouTube, it's in the description. If you're listening to Spotify or any other podcast, it'll be in the show notes, and you can just click the link and head over. So uh, that's cool. So the third short story is still coming soon. And you mentioned that this is what is the series name that the
Oh,
Touch of Fae and the Burden of Fate belong to? Is there a series title?
yes, it's called Bradaís Pledge.
But okay,
And
cool.
bradaí is the name of the kids, is the name of the immortal pirates. So they are
Gotcha.
the enemies of the foe. But there's a reason why this series is named after them, because you in book 2 you see more about them, and in book 3 you even see more about the more pirates.
Is book 3 the last book in that
Yes,
world?
yes.
Okay. So do you know what you're gonna write next?
Well, yes, I actually in this time that I spent with Tracy and Jess and the writers, sorry, I wrote a lot of books. So I already have one ready, but I don't. I need to find when I'm going to publish it, or how I'm going to publish it, and there's a few more that are different world, because I love experimenting different worlds. I usually like to have in the contemporary world with fantasy, with the fantasy around. And again, my stories are more in the low spice kind of spectrum. And I have other stories like that. So my idea, actually, my author's motto, if you will, it's where fantasy meets romance, because I love having both of these genres balanced without one overpowering the other. I mean, they have like the right touch of romance and the right touch of fantasy without one being too much. That's what I like.
Yeah. I just write the fantasy. I write epic fantasy adventure. So
That's awesome.
yeah, the fantasy overpowers everything else. but that's
That's good.
something
That's
I
good
enjoy
too.
writing. But I love that their fantasy is a whole spectrum that you can get, like the action all the way over to the romance, and it seems like you're in the middle, where if you want some romance and some fantasy, which is really cool, because you're kind of sitting in that place where if you want a little bit of each, you got sort of the buffet happening, which I think is
Exactly.
very cool. You mentioned dark energy. So dark energy, like, what exactly is that in your world? Is it like
It's
the opposite of something? Is it something unique in of itself? Where does it come from?
when Anor creates the bradaí. That's something that I slowly reveal in the
Okay.
stories. But when Anor, just very briefly, when Anor creates the bradaí, he has to do it. He's the son of the Morrigan and Don. So he's the son of the goddess of battle and the god of death. So he uses
Okay.
part of that energy. His name actually means chaos, so he loves chaos, and also uses black magic. He uses black magic to control them. So what he does is control his creations so they do their writing, but they are not 100% controlled by him. And that's what the Fae is betting on, trying to sever the connection from these creatures that are immortal and impossible to kill, because of this dark magic and because of these guys, these guys' parents, which are kick badass Celtic parents, right?
Yeah. So how do you how in this world, in your books, how do you define black magic? Like, what it like yeah.
I don't get too much into that, because it's more of a, it's not magic, is not like the main element in the book.
Right, right.
It's just a part of it. It's important, it's very important, but it's not like the main part. So it's only like rituals that he makes a ritual to infuse his creations with them.
Okay, so that's the only place where black magic
Yeah.
really comes into the picture, and that's before the book began. That
Yes,
happens.
and then you have the power of the Fae and how it affects Ryanne and how it starts evolving within her. So that's part of the it's Fae power, so you can call it magic as well, but it's more of a fantasy kind of power.
Okay, and like, what are the Fae powers? We know Ryan can see sort of visions. Are there others, or is that like the main one
There's a
that's in
reason
the book?
also why, because she's not the only one. She's not the only human who has been touched by Fae. There have been others before her, and usually they have visions, and you understand why in the book, there's a reason why. It has to be our human nature and what we love about the future, so that's part of what enhances the vision. But the faith power is more to that. There's not, it's just not only having visions. That's not the main issue why they have the power. But why, you will have to read the book, because that's part of the discovery, there.
No, that's fine. And so it says, so war is coming in this first book. So we don't have the war between the Fae and the bradaí. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Awesome. So is the war looming for the whole trilogy, or like does the war happen at some point in the trilogy, or is that too much of a spoiler?
It's a fight right now. It's a fight between the two factions. There's hatred between both factions. They constant each other. They have a lot of issues, and of course understandable for the Fae side, because of the way the bradaí kills the Fae. You see that during the book, during the series. And then in book 2 starts to the stakes are raised, and then in book 3 all hell breaks loose. Sorry. Breaks
Oh,
loose.
so there's actual battles, and like there's they actually do fight.
It is, but it's not what I do. There's some fights and there's a battle, but it's not, I mean, it's important, but it's
Yeah.
not like the main focus, because what I like is to have the fantasy, all the stories and everything that it must happen. It must have this background with all this, what is happening between the bradaís, because it's integral to the plot, right?
I see.
Yes,
So the
it's
main
integral to the plot.
battlefield is not the fight where the fight is happening. The main battlefield is, I guess, what is going on with Ryanne and Titus,
And
I guess, and
Titus,
what. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, which is
yes.
cool.
Yes, and there's a reason why, because that's actually explained at the end of book 2. And everything I'm like revealing without having feeling the reader frustrated and say, oh, what's happening. I mean, I do give some answers and everything, but because they are both in their perspectives, they know so much, and they understand part of the game, at the end of book 2, say, oh, okay, this is why it's happening. And then that is a catalyst for book 3, which is it's like the last standing.
I see. So does everything wrap up at the end of book 3, or do you leave some ends loose and hanging in case you want to come back?
You want to spill the beans. It's not. I mean, it is.
I'm just curious.
It is an ending that will satisfy readers. It is an ending that will satisfy readers, but it's not like, oh, everything's happy, everything's settled. I don't tie up all the knots, because there's some things that are not resolved. It is resolved from Ryanne, from the protagonist's point of view, and again, it will leave readers satisfied. But yes, it's a little bit open for different stories. That actually, it's kind of fun that you mentioned that, because as I was writing book 3, there is a scene where I have 2 characters that they don't appear in any time in the. They're just like, secondary characters, and then they start explaining something, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that story. I love your story. What is happening between you two? So, and it has to be, because again, I can't say anything because it's book 3, but I actually, it's like, oh, I can do something with this, because
So
I was very excited. I was very excited when I was writing this only chapter about them, and I was like, wait a minute, who are you guys? What happened? So yes, that's story that I want to write eventually. Yes,
that's cool. So you might go back someday and write that story in this world, and we might see Ryanne and Titus again, and many others, possibly.
Yep.
That's cool. That's very cool. Is there anything? I feel like everything is like, no, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler.
Don't ask me anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay.
It's very hard, because you want to tell everything, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, wait, I can't say this because it's part of the discovery that it has.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that one of the things that you have to do, there's no real cliffhanger at the end of in each of these books, even though they're part of a trilogy. My idea is to have the most important things resolved. Of course, the story is not ending, so you have like a little cliffhanger that is like, oh, okay, I need the book two. It's part of that, but everything's resolved. I mean, the not everything. The main points from book one, they are resolved, and then there are some that are not, which is going to propel into book two. But there's not like a terrible cliffhanger that otherwise you won't know what's happening.
No, that's cool. That's cool that you do it that way, because I know some people love cliffhangers, some people hate them. So it's
Yeah,
cool that you kind of have both. It wraps up, but there's still some bits that are hanging. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
yeah, that's the idea. Yes.
No, is there anything else you want to say about Touch of Fate?
Well, one of the things that I've seen my readers have said that they like it because it's a fresh take on pirates. One of them say, "I didn't know I needed pirates until I read your book."
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's kind of, I'm trying to do it like it's something, it's a fresh take on the fantasy stories, on the fae, on the pirates, on the humans. So if you take a chance on my book, I hope you really enjoy it and enjoy that part that it's not like, it's a bit different, and at the same time it has that familiar feeling of stories that they are similar to it. It's actually, if one of my readers compares, like similar to the Cruel Prince with a touch of the daughter of the Pirate King.
Oh, that's cool. That's very neat. Well, and I guess if we ask what this fresh take is, that's a spoiler, right?
It's just most of the first take is like the story is not like all the other stories, so you get to see a different type of evolution with the characters. You have the world that I created is like, it's a little bit different because it's I mean it's even though, I mean, it's basically urban fantasy, but it's not in a city. I mean, I moved around a lot. In the three books, they kind of jump from one place, from the human world to another dimension, and then to a pirate ship across the ocean, and they had to go somewhere else, and they moved as long as the plot needs to go to move along. And also because of the idea how it works with the fae and the pirates, and the feud between them, and why is the human required for that. That's the part that it, I believe, is a fresh take.
Okay, and so the pirate is in the Fey world, so she's in back and forth into this Fey world, or wherever the Fey are.
They are in a similar dimension than ours, so it's an Earth, but they have a different dimension. So there are like three
Okay,
main dimensions. Yes,
so the
yes.
pirate's not hanging around the Caribbean or anything.
No. Actually, yeah. One of the things that I really enjoy is that Titus, he talks. I mean, his way of thinking of the way he narrates has a lot of things piratey style, and also there's a reason why they are called pirates, which you will see also.
Gotta get the book to find out all these things and more.
Yeah.
So, if you enjoy Starcross lovers, check out Touch of Fate. Any other final thoughts?
Just thank you again so much for letting me express my thoughts about my world, and the writing experience. I'm really happy to be here, and I really appreciated your invitation.
Oh no, thank you for coming on. This was fun. I got to learn about a new book and meet two new authors, which for the price of one. What's free? The podcast is free. There's
She
no
had to go
cost.
because of her kids. Yes.
Yeah, no, it was great meeting her. Do encourage her to come back. I'll send you the link
Awesome.
for the sign up.
I let her know. I let her know because she's really an amazing author.
Yeah, and you said Jesse. There's a
Yes.
third one.
Oh, yes. I'll you send it out to me, and I'll
I'll
send it out
send
to
it.
her because she has a lot of books out.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I have a lot of books too.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to
I've
be
been
like you.
I've been self-publishing since 2016. I didn't have other authors to read my work, so I had to put it out there for readers.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, even if you're a slow writer, once when you've been publishing for a number of years, you start to accrue books. You start to not have a whole lot of space to store them either. They just kind of multiply like rabbits.
That's good. That's good. We love that as readers. We love that. We want books.
Yeah. No, I'm glad readers love that because we as writers want to keep writing you books. Keep,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
I,
so
I
we
mean,
need you
I
to.
can't imagine myself not writing. It's just
Yeah.
make gives me so much pleasure. I love reading my stories, which is kind of, like, wait, are you narcissist? No, it's just because, you enjoy the stories and like, oh my God, I know what's going to happen. And yet I'm excited. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the sadness when you're done writing the book and it's time for it to go out into the world because you're letting it go and you're no longer part of that story anymore.
Yeah,
So
it's so crazy. I think
that's why
I'm
we
going to
keep
feel
writing
that.
sequels, so we're not sad about the other one ending.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna feel like that when I send my third books. Like, oh my God, there's no more Titus and Ryanne. I have to. I mean, I focus on other stories because I have a lot of other stories that I love, and you understand that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
are you thinking about like finding a publisher for the next series that you're gonna write, or are you thinking about maybe indie publishing it?
Well, right now I'm with a small publisher. But then my next books are standalone, so they only publish series. So I have to think about it. I have to think about it. What I'm going to do. Yeah.
Oh, are the standalones all in the same world, or are they in different
Oh, they're
worlds?
different. Yeah, because I have like a lot of stories in my head. I mean, I'm not able, and you understand that as a writer yourself, that you can't write everything, right? So, but I have a lot of ideas, and I have other stories in different. Yeah, it's different worlds. So I just created different worlds because I don't know, it feels exciting to me. It's
I mean,
very.
I do try and write everything. I have over 21 books published, and I have hopefully
Oh,
5 more coming this year.
wow, wow,
Because
that's
I've
amazing!
been
Congrats you.
thank you. I spent a lot of last year writing, so but yeah, I do try to write everything. And I have
Oh my God,
outlines
that's
of
amazing.
yeah.
I wish I
Well,
could, but I have a day job,
so
and
do I. I
Oh,
have a day job
wow.
with a commute.
Okay,
I commute
okay.
3 days a week to the office. I have a day job and a
Now
4-year-old
I'm
nephew.
very impressed. I'm very impressed. I'm gonna have to try to be more like you and write more.
Well, I don't have other authors reading my work, but I do have a Patreon, and I have one wonderful um, subscriber to that, and I deliver 4 chapters to her every week without fail. If I do have to miss a week, then I will deliver 5 chapters the week
Wow.
after. So I say really hard not to have to miss it, but sometimes, things, things
Yeah,
happen and you can't. But it's really rare that I've had to do that because it's painful having to get 5 chapters the
that
next week.
wow.
So
Wow.
when you have to write
Uh-huh.
5 chapters, 4 chapters per week, books rack up kind of fast.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, deadlines are good.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's the secret to my having a lot of books. I mean, I've only had this patron for 1 year, but before that even though I didn't have anybody following me on Patreon or anything, I was still publishing, because you start how you mean to go on, and I was like, well, there's nobody here now. Let's see how much can we write, and let's get into the groove and get experienced, right, delivering multiple chapters on specific, a chapter on specific days, a certain number per week, while nobody is watching. When nobody will know if you miss something, so that when I did get someone, I would know that I can definitely like, and I've been doing it for a couple of years. um so yeah, if you give yourself a deadline of you have to have certain number of chapters per week, like the books start to rack up.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so impressed.
That's the secret to my prolific writing. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. Today we had Ligia. I had it right earlier in the podcast.
You
I'm
did,
very
you did.
sad. Ligia, and we had Tracy, your cheerleader, and we were talking about Touch of Faete and many other things. And I hope that you'll check it out. There'll be all the links in the usual places. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, what have you, so that you are alerted next time we have a podcast episode, which is next week, probably. And we'll have another fantasy author.
Thank you to all the readers for listening to us and listening to me and giving a chance to a new author. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah, and thank you all for listening. I hope you'll be back for another fantasy author and another fantasy book next week. Have a great night or a great day wherever you are.